The evacuation alarm screamed through orbital station Kepler 7, and Evan Chen didn't think twice. He just ran. Most of the station crew were already sealed in their emergency pods, but Evan had been in the lower docking bay when the Velcari diplomatic shuttle took a direct hit from debris. The sleek silver craft, designed for grace rather than durability, crumpled like paper. Flames licked along its hull, and smoke poured from the breach in its side. Shuttle Sierra 4, report status. Susan Rodriguez's voice crackled through his comm. She was up in the control center, coordinating the evacuation. "Evan, get out of there! The fuel cells are going to blow!" But Evan had already seen the small hand pressed against the shuttle's porthole, leaving desperate smears on the smoke-blackened glass. "There's someone inside," he said, sprinting toward the wreck. "Evan, no. You have 40 seconds. Maybe less." He'd already stopped listening. The heat hit him like a wall when he reached the shuttle. The metal groaned and buckled, and somewhere inside, something exploded with a muffled whump. Evan grabbed an emergency pry bar from the bulkhead and jammed it into the warped door seam. Come on," he grunted, muscles screaming as he leveraged his full weight against the bar. The door shrieked in protest and finally gave way, sliding open just wide enough for him to squeeze through. The smoke inside was suffocating. Evan pulled his shirt over his nose and mouth, squinting through the haze. There, huddled against the far wall, was a Velcari child. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 in human years, her silver-scaled skin reflecting the orange glow of the flames. Her large, opalescent eyes were wide with terror, and her delicate crested head trembled as she pressed herself into the corner. "Hey, it's okay," Evan said, keeping his voice calm as he moved toward her. "I'm here to help." The child chittered something in her native language, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. I know you're scared, but we have to go. Now." He held out his hand. For a heartbeat, she just stared at him. Humans and Velcari had only made first contact 3 years ago. The diplomatic relations were still fragile, built on careful protocols and formal exchanges. But fear transcended species. The child saw something in Evan's eyes. Maybe desperation. Maybe determination. Maybe just the simple fact that he'd come for her, and she reached out. Her 3-fingered hand was tiny in his palm. Evan scooped her up and turned back toward the door. That's when the fuel cell finally detonated. The explosion threw them both forward. Evan twisted his body mid-air, taking the impact on his back as they crashed through the shuttle door and hit the deck hard. His ears rang, and pain lanced through his shoulder, but he kept his arms locked around the child, shielding her. "Evan!" Susan's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Medical team! To Bay 7! Now!" He tried to respond, but darkness was creeping in at the edges of his vision. The last thing he saw was the Velcari child's face. Those strange, beautiful eyes looking down at him with something like wonder, before everything went black. When Evan woke up, he wasn't in the station's medical bay. He was in a room that seemed to be made entirely of light walls that shimmered like mother of pearl. A ceiling that displayed a slow-moving constellation of stars he'd never seen before. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet, almost floral. "You're awake." Susan sat beside his bed, looking both exhausted and amused. "Welcome back, hero." "What? Where am I?" His shoulder ached, wrapped in some kind of luminescent bandage that pulsed with a gentle warmth. "The Velcari flagship," Susan said. "They insisted on bringing you here for treatment." "Evan, do you know who that child was?" He shook his head slowly. "Princess Lyra Say, daughter of Queen Varathel, the youngest of the royal line." Susan leaned back, shaking her head in disbelief. "You saved the Velcari princess. The entire collective is losing their minds. There have been something like 50 billion news broadcasts about it across 12 systems." Before Evan could process this, the doors opened with a sound like singing crystal. A Velcari woman entered, tall, regal, her silver scales adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to move in the light. Her crest was elaborate, marked with the deep blue gems that Evan now realized denoted royalty. Behind her came the child, Princess Lyra Say, wearing a flowing garment that caught the light like liquid starlight. Susan stood immediately, bowing. Evan tried to sit up, but the queen gestured for him to remain still. Evan Chen. Her voice came through a translator, but there was emotion underneath that no technology could fully convey. You are the human who entered fire to save my daughter. You, who we had only just begun to know as a species. You, who had no obligation to us. No treaty demanding such sacrifice. Anyone would have, Evan started, but the queen held up a hand. No. We have recordings. Your station was evacuating. You were told to flee. You chose to stay. You chose to risk everything for a child of another species. The queen's eyes, so like her daughter's, shimmered with unshed tears. In doing so, you have shown us something we did not know about humans. Something precious. Princess Lyrase stepped forward and said something in her language, her voice like bells. The queen smiled. My daughter says you have a brave heart that burns brighter than any fire. Then, she produced something from her robes, a pendant of crystalline material that seemed to contain a living star. The Velcari Collective does not give honors lightly, but for you, Evan Chen, we create a new tradition. Kneel, if you are able. With Susan's help, Evan managed to kneel. The queen placed the pendant around his neck, then touched his forehead with her own, a gesture of profound respect in Velcari culture. Rise, Sir Evan, Knight of the Burning Heart, first friend of the Velcari Collective, and guardian to the royal house. You have shown us that humanity, for all your flaws, possesses something remarkable. The courage to be kind when it costs you everything. As Evan stood, still dazed, the young princess rushed forward and wrapped her small arms around him. Through the translator, he heard her whisper, "Thank you for coming back for me." And Evan Chen, mechanic from New Houston, realized that sometimes heroism wasn't about grand battles or clever strategies. Sometimes it was just about seeing a hand pressed against glass and deciding that one life was worth saving, no matter the cost. Susan caught his eye and grinned. So, how does it feel to be a knight? Knight. Evan looked down at the princess, still holding on to him, and then at the queen, whose expression held both gratitude and the beginning of friendship between two species. Ask me again when this stops feeling like a dream, he said. But deep down, he knew the answer. It felt right. It felt human, and that was enough.